Hello. Welcome to this video. My name is Miss Synchronicity, or Kim. Today I wanted to open up the floor, the space for us to think and talk about shame and what that can look like, how it can hide from us, and ultimately provide some tips that can provide a type of therapy for you, for us. So I'm going to hold this space for us today because I do think it's very important to take a look at shame, and to do so when it arises. Actually, sometimes it's not always the right time to do this kind of healing work, so I would say that if now doesn't feel like the right time, come back to this video some other time. If now feels like the time that you want to just get a little bit of information, a bit of advice, a little bit of tips, tricks that I've come across when it comes to releasing shame, here it is. So I've had an experience over the last few days that entails shadow work. If you're not familiar with shadow work, everyone's familiar with shadow work. I mean, how could you not be? You live on planet Earth. But what I would say about the conscious level of shadow work versus just experiencing shadow, pain, fear, all those kinds of things, is that oftentimes, and I'll go back to this, but it's really a good place to start, is in the past. Oftentimes, most of the stuff that we deal with as an adult that comes up out of nowhere, that controls our every behaviours, movements in the world, comes from the past, usually sometime when we were growing up. And what I've found about shame is, and this has taken me years, and it will take many more to uncover the layers. It's like an onion. I've uncovered that a lot of it, shame, is rooted in, at least my experience with it was that it was rooted in a time in my life where my emotional body was arising, okay, with panic, fear, anger, sadness, pain of some kind, because of a situation that was happening around me. But because this situation around me was a type of, let's call it home, that was my only home, that I didn't have anywhere else that I could really go, those emotions that were arising at the time when I was experiencing something that made my emotional body flare up with panic, run away, this is not right, these kinds of emotions got pushed down into my system, almost like the experience didn't happen, the emotions did not come up like that. And the reason is because at the time, usually when these kinds of, emotions are pushed down and repressed in the past sometime, because it's not safe to feel those things. Because if you feel those things, maybe you need to run away, maybe you need to go somewhere else. But if you don't have anywhere else to go, there's nothing you can do. You have to just kind of ignore your emotions, which are telling you, problem, right? but the situation was a problem. But instead of listening to those emotions, blacked them out. Just covered it up. Nope, can't deal with you right now. Just trying to survive, right? So that's the base of it, I've found. So the reason that I came across this information like this, and it'll work a different way for you. But as many of you know, I've been on YouTube making videos for the last 7-8 years. And a friend of mine linked a video that I made on social anxiety. So I just made, my last video that I made was on social anxiety, right? And a friend of mine linked a video that I made on social anxiety 6 years ago. When I rewatched this video from 6 years ago, I thought, wow, I'm in the same position as I was 6 years ago, and I'm not. Obviously, everything has changed, but when I listened to the words that I was saying, and when I looked at myself and the way that I was carrying my energy, let's say, I was like, whoa, I still feel the same way, if not worse. And some other things going on in my world, like a relationship that's trying to, communicate, let's say, came at the very synchronistic moment that I was going through this pain of like, wow, how have I not moved? And I have moved, but in my head, I needed to recognize that I hadn't moved from a certain cycle, a certain loop, so that I could do the shadow work that I'm about to explain. Well, this is how long it took, and even more so. But I looked at that video, and I'll link it here, social anxiety. I looked at that video, and at the time I was traveling to New Zealand. I was working as a waitress behind a bar. And what I realized, the energetic frequency that I was feeling into, was that I was in a relationship with someone at the time, not a romantic relationship, boss, co-worker relationship, that was repeating a cycle that I'd had in my past, right? And only now, 6 years later, do I recognize what that cycle is because of the other relationship that's coming into my life and wants to communicate. So the point of me telling you this is that when this relationship came through, wanting to communicate, I felt the really difficult anxiolytic emotions come through, and to a point where it's like, okay, gotta feel this. So what I did was and here is a distinction that is so huge that I really hope can help you, because I've moved from, I can feel it in my being, I've moved from this home that I was living in my mind, of this false safe security because of the repressed emotions that I had, to now moving into a new home, which is kind of a big change in the unknown in my head, because I'm not relying on this old Kim to get me through. I've pushed through into a new home in my head, okay, just to use an analogy. And the way that I got there was because of all these events that I'm telling you about, the video, the relationship, and I went in my shed, or my she shed, as another friend called it to me, and I thought, oh, that's a good one. It's my she shed. And I went in there and I sat with it, and I said to myself, okay, you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to act on this emotion that's coming through. It's very strong. I want to act on it. I want to share my anger. I want to tell the people and see if they'll feel sorry for me. I want to just act on it, right? I'm not going to do that. Okay, number one. Number two, I'm not going to repress it. I'm not going to be in my head and think a million and one thoughts so that I don't have to feel this emotion. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it, and I'm going to do nothing else but feel it. So I did. I sat with it. Just kept feeling into my heart, like, okay, where you at? Where you at feeling, buddy? Oh, you're full of anxiety, right? Okay, that's fine. Let's just breathe. About 10 minutes later, I sat with someone to check into my body again. How are you feeling? Oh, a little bit calmer. Feel like I'm actually being myself, even though I'm being quiet right now. I'm just in the room. I'm not trying to be anybody. I'm just sitting. I'm just feeling. And I can see that people accept that. Don't have to perform. So I'm feeling a bit calmer. Okay, let's go into the shed for a bit. And I made a voice note. I went for a walk with my son. He's 6 months old. And I tell him a story, a memory that comes up. Because I like to talk to him. But he doesn't understand it. So it's kind of a win-win. But he understands the energy. Anyway, the point is, I'm going for a walk. And as I'm going for a walk, a memory comes into my head. So this was before I knew where this anxiety was coming from, what it pertained to, how I'd been holding on to it for, 20 years? No. I can't do math right now. About 15 years, okay? Or more, I don't know. Story, memory comes up. Oh, this memory. Oh, I remember that, yeah. Okay, well, I thought I'd looked at this memory, so what's going on? So what I do is I get out my phone and I think of telling someone that I trust about this memory. And I make a voice note. And as I make this voice note, I'm dancing around the topic. I can hardly talk about it, even though it's not even going to anyone yet. It's just in my voice notes. Anyway, turns out I listened to this voice recording back before sending it to my friend. And I cry. And I'm like, oh. Guess I didn't clear that memory then. Guess that was still living in my system. And the biggest piece of all of this, shame reclamation, if you can call it that, is that I realized what happened. So I had visited this memory before, okay? I thought I dealt with it. But no, because what I'd done is I thought about it and I told someone about it and hoped that they'd feel sorry for me maybe on some level, or just needed to express it on some level. Just needed to express it. We all need love, right? And it was a couple of years ago, and I just, okay, well, I guess that's that then. I guess that's what everyone goes through. Anyway, when I sat with it, with myself, even though I was, technically messaging a friend, but before sending it, I listened to it. And I thought, I don't actually know if I want to send this to my friend. I want to sit with it and just really sit with it, because I've already told someone about this and it didn't help. So what am I missing? And the key piece that I was missing is that the story I told you in the beginning is just that I repressed the emotions surrounding that event. And what this did was create a whole cascade of events that followed that, where at school and other places, I was always putting on a facade. And the facade was, I'm a nice person, I'm a good person, I'm a kind person, so I'm just going to always be kind and always Not always, okay, there was a couple of slips there, here and there, where I just couldn't. But I was very good at playing the good girl. At school, especially. Never got in trouble, never was a bad kid, really. I mean, there was, because of this one... No, I was basically a good kid. I was a little bit of a rebel here and there, but not really at school. Because of this one big emotion that I repressed, I was putting on this facade because if I wasn't safe, quote unquote, in this home that I built for myself, I wasn't safe anywhere. So, in order to cope, don't listen to my emotions, which are telling me when someone's dangerous and someone's not good for me. Push them aside and just be the girl everyone wants me to be. So that went on for a long time, and I was never very real about who I was on the inside. I thought that I had to be a good girl, quote unquote, to survive. And I probably did. By good girl, what I mean is I would just let people walk all over me. I would, friends especially, I'd let them treat me like shit. Because of these other times where I'd push my emotions aside because I need to survive, and I took these experiences into anywhere else that I would go in life. And the unconscious thought was that I can't be myself because myself is coming up with emotions that I don't know how to deal with. So I'm going to be somebody that's fine and that isn't struggling emotionally. Hello, Blue Jay. Again, not telling you this story to feel sorry for me. I'm explaining this story so that you can reflect on yourself. The last few videos, I've done therapy-like videos, and even though I've definitely done a lot of work to be where I am today, I wanted to tell this story about shame from a more personal perspective so that you don't feel like I am trying to be some kind of authority to you. I'm just a normal person like you. So, I don't know if that will make sense to you, or any of that story will make sense to you. I don't know if it will be helpful. But that story and the energy surrounding that story was very liberating, because when I sat with myself in my she shed, I started feeling a sense of like, whoa, I've got some of my power back, because I traced where I took on someone else's garbage and thought that it was my fault. Hey buddy, building a nest? Oh, you're having some water. And I traced exactly what happened, maybe not exactly, but pretty well enough to have a new sense of fire arise in me, where it's like, whoa, I've spent a long time carrying this shame for someone else, ain't mine. So that's that, really. I find it curious how all of our different personality types will deal with shame and anything to do with it in different ways. So, for example, some people at school would probably take that shame and bully other people with it, right? And then some of us will eat that shame, just eat it, and perform for people, and probably get bullied because of it, because everyone can see. I have this feeling that everyone can really sense your energy, even though you're putting on a performance sometimes and putting on a mask. And violence and intimidation tactics work better for some people. Not better, but they scare most people, right? But then people like that will have to go into relationships where they're probably with someone that's even more intimidating, so that they can learn their lessons. And then those of us that maybe spent a long time being intimidated toward will probably end up in relationships that are actually good for us, but not always. Not always. Anyway, like I say, I can't give solid, concrete advice about it. I don't know if I did say that, but I'm trying to be more humble with the fact that my story may or may not be anything like yours. But I think we do share some universal ways of dealing with shame. And those are the two that I recognized. I'm sure there's more. There's the projected outward, or there's the projected inward. And then we want to find a nice middle ground where, especially in our adulthood, we recognize that, oh, if I can get through that, I can get through anything. And if I've survived this far without giving myself permission to stand in my power, then I can definitely make it the rest of the way. Because I've reclaimed some of my power, I've retrieved some of my soul from this experience, I feel. Because I have a fire burning in me now that is like, oh, I won't let people treat me like that anymore, because I know that I don't know it fully, I'm still learning, and I still make unconscious decisions based on some of my past. But at least one thing is conscious now. One more thing added to the list of conscious awareness. So that's as well as I can explain that in English language. So if you got anything from that, great. And if you want to get something off your chest, feel free, like completely free, because you don't deserve to be judged when you're expressing something. But I know that we do need to find the right places to express things. But I will make sure that in the comment section, I can't always be the first to read your comment, because even though I get notifications when someone makes a comment on my video, for some reason it doesn't tell me every time someone comments on a video. It's only like every other fourth or fifth comment sometimes that I get a notification. But anyway, I'll check it in the next few days, and actually I check it quite often, especially when I've just made a video. It's up to you. It's up to you if you just want to listen to this video and move on. I get that. But if you do feel like you want to comment, this is a safe space to comment on what you've maybe noticed about shame and your experiences with it, if you want to. Holding this as a sacred space. Okay? But it takes courage, I know, to comment these kinds of things. But communication leads to higher emotional intelligence, because the emotions are no longer this mystery. When we actually feel, and we really just feel, like nothing else, don't think, don't take action, just feel. For me, it comes with very potent just understanding. Sometimes I just have to feel, and it's just uncomfortable. But on the other side of it is like this big house of energy, I want to say. So, feelings, emotional therapy. If you've been more of a thought-based individual for a long time, just have to keep reminding yourself, oh, feel. How does my body feel? Feel. Feel right now. Because I've, like I say, the last 7 years here, I've thought I was feeling, but I think I was mostly thinking. It's difficult to feel an emotion and not attach a story to it, and not have some kind of judgment or opinion about it, and not have some kind of English or other language words going on in your head. We want to make sense of the emotions, and sometimes you just need to breathe, if that makes sense, because there's not always words for how you feel, but sometimes there is, and sometimes there's memories, and sometimes there's visions that go along to your unconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is trying to help you to work through and navigate who you really are and reclaim some parts of your soul. And yeah, shame's a big one. So how did shame, if it affected you, where do you think shame has come from in your life? And it may take a few days, weeks, months for that to arise. So when it comes to this kind of healing work, don't force it too much unless you want to. Sometimes it's just going to arise naturally, and then you're like, oh, okay, great, now I've got a trigger arising. Bingo, here's the gold. Let's delve in, let's dive in. So I've talked enough. Just going to breathe. Take care, everyone. Lots of love. And